Hello everyone, I'm Owen Osmera. I am actually participating in the NASA Fellowship this school year, and I am making a VR moon simulation. Now before I start, I would like to kind of elaborate on what a VR moon simulation is. So a VR moon simulation in the simplest terms is a little, something that an astronaut can use, in this case we're using VR, to train them before they go into space to kind of get them ready for the whole environment of space and or the moon in this case. So this is the moon simulation that we'll be going into, and I think we can dive right in so you can maybe get a better idea of what they will kind of be seeing and what the whole purpose of this is. So now you'll see me put on this headset. This headset is actually a VR headset, and what it does is it has two little screens in there, if you've never used one of these before, and those two little screens basically kind of give your eyes something to look at so you can kind of immerse yourself in the whole experience as a whole. So let's dive right in. So you basically just put this headset on, and we'll start the environment real quick. So we're starting the environment, it's loading, and we will get the scenes right here. So now that we have the scenes, you might be wondering, well, this looks cool, but what's the whole point of this? Well, I actually have hands, just so you're aware. These are my little astronaut gloves that I have going. And you can kind of see the whole experience as a whole. So this is actually the Apollo 16 landing. So this is an actual location on the moon, just in a little bit low quality, because that's how this STL works in this case. But overall, I think it's pretty good. So we can move around. I did set that up on here. If you can't tell, we are moving. And we can turn. I added a different turning mechanic. It might get you a little motion sick at first, but you might be able to get used to it. I did have snap turns before, but I was incurring some issues. There were some issues occurring with those turns, so I definitely just changed the turn, and this actually works a lot better. And I think me personally, it allows me to just see the whole experience more as a whole. So we have a starry background that I found online. We have this whole STL for the Apollo 16 landing, the rover and hammer, which I actually found on NASA's website for their 3D STL resources. There's a link in my GitHub for all these resources and everything that I found here and I'm using. Overall, they are basically everywhere you'll need to go. One of them is Unity's stuff, so you can actually just get access to their materials and 3D mechanics, like their whole XR kit is in there. Even though that is already in the studio, it is nice to be able to see exactly what's going into those through their side and kind of get a whole idea of what's going on. But yeah, so this is where I'm kind of at with the whole experience. You can look around and you can kind of see the whole terrain difference, and that's what I think is the most cool thing here. You can explore it too. There's no issues with it, and it's super nice, super clean so far, and that's kind of what I was aiming for by the time I got this portion out and actually had something playable and not malfunctioning. So this is working. This is exactly where I'm at in terms of development, and I think it has come out really well so far. I do want to add interaction with the hammer, so you actually get that whole gravity feel when you're throwing the hammer, and then it kind of just floats a little bit, curves, and then kind of becomes its own, has its own gravity, falling slower than it does on Earth. The rover currently has no hitbox or issues with it, or body with it. You can just walk through it. I do plan on adding a mechanic or not a mechanic, but mainly an interaction from the hammer and the rover itself, and I think that'll turn out pretty well. But in terms of my tasks, the first one I want to get done is obviously the player movement with gravity, so that the main portion of that still needs done is jumping, and that's not too terribly hard, I don't think, but it is still going to be something I'm going to need to look into and find because I haven't seen anything on that yet. Same with the hammer. I have installed interaction stuff with the hammer. The only thing I have left to add now is the actual grabbing feature from the player that lets me pick the hammer up and kind of do what I want with it. So the hammer can be interacted with. It's considered an interactable item, but my hands currently do not have the capability to actually pick that up and do things with it. So that is another thing I'm going to be working on, and that is probably when the next video will be posted. But this is just a general update of kind of where I'm at with this whole project. This is going to be a YouTube video, so if you have any recommendations or concerns, you can leave them in the comment section. I will leave comments open on this. I know this is going to be posted on the WNCC page, I believe. That's kind of why I'm recording this. They wanted me to have something on there so I can kind of, just kind of get out more what I'm doing. Because right now I currently have a WebGL thing on there for the earliest version of the game, which does not have WebGL compatibility. I personally don't think I'm going to implement WebGL compatibility because this is a VR simulation. Um, I could do that, but currently I have no, like, I have no initiative to really port it over to WebGL, mainly because this is a beta experience in VR. There is no real reason to go over to WebGL and then do the same things I'm doing over there with VR. So I think the APK for now is what I'm going to stick with. I might, at the very end of things, when I get things running, make a WebGL for it. But I also just don't think this is going to be able to run optimally on a whole website. Like, I just don't think that's going to be possible. So I think the videos are a better stand in terms of kind of getting an update of where I'm at and kind of getting a feeling of what it kind of feels like without actually, having a VR headset or having access to the APK. Because currently I don't have this in a playable position to be considered in a beta. Well, that's just my personal opinion. Some other people might think that it's okay. I just want to be able to look around the area and kind of get a feel for how your environment is made overall right now. And I don't think that's a terrible opinion. But me personally, I'm kind of a little bit of a perfectionist. I like to have everything done and ready before I send it out and say, this is kind of where I'm at. But overall, I think it's in a good position right now. I just don't think it's in a position that I can upload it anywhere and feel good with everything I've done with it because I don't think it's ready for use. But overall, very good experience. This has taught me a lot about C#. I am using Unity, if you couldn't tell, and C# is the main coding language you use in here. It's kind of a mixture, in my opinion, of C++ and Java and Python. I think it's very simple, and I think it's very easy to use syntax-wise, and it's always nice to learn another program language, and it does help in school because I do end up using C++, Java, and Python for my computer science class, and I think this is just a nice addition to that to give me a better feel for coding languages as a whole. I like knowing coding languages. They're super useful all the time. So overall, very good experience. I have learned a lot doing this. Actually, you might be curious as to what like some of the issues were, and that was actually just finding good videos for this. There are a lot of videos on there, and not that they're necessarily bad, but they're just not what I need for what I'm doing. So, for example, the version of Unity I initially started with changed a lot when I started this. This changed like 3 or 4 times. I had it once going for like a month. I got some parts done that I wanted, and then I realized that I couldn't do the thing that I was watching in this one video because I was in a different version of Unity. And that actually ended up breaking that version, so I had to remake it up in the other version of Unity, and then it ended up working, and we had no issues. But this taught me a lot. It's a lot of trial and error when it comes to working with this, and I think it came out pretty well. I think it just takes time, and it just takes a little bit of effort and looking into to find solutions that I'm looking for. I don't think adding the jump and the hammer will take too long, but keep looking out for it. I will post a video when I get that going. I might even have some interactions with those, but currently this is where I'm at, and I think it's in a pretty good place to be. So thanks for watching. Again, if you have any recommendations or questions, leave them in the comments. I will probably try to reply to them. I'll at least look at them and take them into consideration when finishing this. Outside input is always nice, especially for people who know what they're doing, so I think I'll make this public. But overall, good experience, and I cannot complain. Thank you for watching.